After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are analyzing and reacting San Francisco 49ers Day 3 of training camp. Going to dive into why Brock Purdy was not at practice today, discuss what really was one of the more low-effort days for the offense, and then share some sleepers from the practice session out there at Levi's Stadium, and then give you what I saw from the defense that was by far and away the standout on the field during today's practice. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Still working towards 100 audio podcast reviews up until a regular season week number 1. But let's dive into San Francisco 49ers training camp day number 3 with some of our quick hitting notes. The first one being about Brock Purdy. Where was the new $53 million man and star quarterback? He did not practice today. It seemed like that was not a scheduled day off for Brock Purdy, which is a pretty common occurrence for veteran players during training camp. Don't want to have those guys get hurt in anticipation for the actual meaningful games in the next month or so. But Brock did not practice today due to personal reasons. We have been told via the media and the team itself that those reasons are not bad, they're not negative, and they are not too serious. So it looks like Brock will only be gone and miss one practice. There are some speculative reports out there as to why Brock may not be or may have missed practice today, which many of those surround him and his wife Jenna potentially having a baby soon, or at least knowing the sex and gender of their child today. But that's all speculation. If that's true, awesome for Brock and his wife. Congratulations to them too. But if it's not true, then not congratulations, I guess. But hope whatever happens goes well for him. And he is supposed to be back at practice on Sunday in the last practice before pads come on Monday. So no Brock Purdy today, which kind of set the tone for the entire practice, because the San Francisco 49ers really did have, I don't want to say a lazy practice, but it certainly felt like the effort was a lot lower today, especially from the offense. Not many explosive plays. You didn't have, a great pass to George Kittle or a big run by Christian McCaffrey. It was a much more laid-back kind of practice. Funny enough, though, it was the longest practice of the day, so those two things really didn't coincide when effort and length of practice come together. But I digress. Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty from today's news. Jacob Cowing with the hamstring injury, still not practicing, but the player that was waived to make way for Quintez Cephas, Cowing's wide receiver replacement, that being running back Israel Abanikanda, he was waived yesterday to make room for Cephas. He was then claimed off waivers today by the Green Bay Packers. So Abanikanda is not going to be a San Francisco 49er any longer and will join the NFC North rival. One of the big bright spots from today's practice was second-year cornerback Renardo Green. Had a really good season in his rookie year last year for San Francisco. Arguably had one of the best defensive practices through the first 3 days of anybody on the roster. He had 3 pass breakups. He was locking guys down and giving receivers fits throughout the entirety of training camp. That said, he did leave practice early, which what we assumed to be a hamstring injury. And funny enough, he may have hurt himself on the best play of practice from Renardo Green. He was sticky in coverage in lockstep with Jauan Jennings on a deep route down the football field, locked him up, knocked the ball away, then kind of came down limp and kind of walked away, went to the trainer and said, "Hey, come help me." Didn't seem to be too serious. He was getting his hamstring worked on, but something to note that Renardo Green is injured. It is the second hamstring injury thus far through the first 3 training camp practices, the first one being Jacob Cowling, and throughout the OTA sessions, you had Ricky Pearsall too. So for the love of God, please stretch, please hydrate. Don't hurt your hamstrings. Do whatever it takes. I can only see a future in which this team has 6 guys on the IL or the IR because of hamstring injuries. So please drink water. Please stretch. Do whatever it takes. The hamstring plague has come to hit San Francisco thus far in the training camp sessions, and it already sucks. No Pearsall, which we may see him back on Sunday. At least that's seemingly the case. No Cowling, and maybe even no Renardo Green once they return to practice on Sunday morning. But outside of that, Calachipto asks here, hopefully Green isn't too injured and is a good day off tomorrow. Not a question, but a comment by Calachipto. Yes, let's hope that Green is not injured in a severe way. Hopefully a day off tomorrow will get him rested, have him feeling good to get back out there on Sunday, because you want to see your starting defense out there come pads on Monday. And Green was looking really, really, really good today and was really showing off his strength and his effort. And, a player like Green coming into year 2 is supposed to be the replacement for Travarius Mooney-Ward, who is now at the Colts. But also for Green, he's a player that relies on his physicality. And when he's injured and his legs are hurt or he can't, go up there and knock a receiver around somewhat, his play usually dips. So to see him out there with no pads today playing extremely well is a good sign. And you're hoping that day 1 of pads he'll be out there to maybe give a little bit back to Jauan Jennings and others out there on offense once the pads come on Monday. But moving along here on the show, funny enough, speaking of Jauan Jennings, we had our first scuffle, if you want to call it a fisticuffs maybe. Jauan Jennings and Deommodore Lenoir got into it. We know both those guys are kind of nagging, pesky players that want to get under the opposing team's skin. Lenoir is great at it. He was one of the players alongside Jimmy Ward in previous years to do it to DK Metcalf. And Jauan Jennings is never afraid to throw a few Green Bay Packers into the Gatorade box and bottles on the sideline. And those 2 guys were getting into it today after a running play in which Jennings was blocking Lenoir maybe a little too rough for his own liking, and Lenoir never afraid to give it back to him. So, again, the first quote-unquote scuffle wasn't really a fight. I have seen Jauan Jennings start fights at training camp. This was not that. I have seen literal bench-clearing brawls with helmets flying and fists flying and all that sort of thing, but this was not that. This was simply just, grabbing helmets and whatnot, and a little pushing and shoving. Then it was, hey guys, knock it off. They walked away, and that was the end of it. But good to see the energy, at least from those 2 guys, in a rather lazy practice session, to see your veterans out there giving it, a high effort and never afraid to kind of mix things up when necessary. Continuing with the Lenoir conversation for a second, San Francisco continues to give him a chunk of plays off throughout the day during team drills. Now, in previous practices, that was to get Trey Brown some outside reps and Upton Stout playing nickelback to see, how they can mix and match throughout the year and get a better understanding as to which one of those players best fits the starting defense. But today we got another wrinkle to the mixing and matching, the rotation of cornerbacks, if you will, because we did see Trey Brown once again move outside and Stout go play nickelback, but we also got to see Dallas Flowers play outside cornerback while Trey Brown played nickel. So Robert Saleh getting a full look at the cornerback room through his first 3 days back as a defensive coordinator in training camp. I am not pleasantly surprised, but I'm a little shocked there has been so much movement. But in the same vein, like, I'm really not shocked because the Niners gave Saleh the keys to the draft essentially and said, hey, fix us. We need this. And now you're seeing Saleh in training camp during practice also having free reign to really put the best guys on the field, where that's always the case. But for a team that has so many maybe position battles in flux, or rookies and veterans who were signed during the offseason that haven't been here for the past few years or during the winning ways of the San Francisco 49ers, you're seeing Saleh say, I don't care about your past. I want to see what you can do in the future and for us now. So I don't know if Flowers makes the team, but when you think about it, that was not Darrell Luter Jr., who I know this team used to have high hopes for, but I would just say Dallas Flowers early on may have an upper hand on Luter Jr. Thus far through training camp, which sucks, knowing how much San Francisco liked and wanted to draft Darrell Luter Jr. a couple years ago, but his stock has just tanked itself, and hopefully he can refined it. But Dallas Flowers is getting first-team reps over Darrell Luter Jr. and alongside Green and Trey Brown. So that's worth mentioning as a small note early on in training camp. Bobo's in the YouTube chat saying what's up to our good friend Lori Matthews here. Lori, 3 days in a row, you got me. You got me for the first 3 days of training camp. Great to have you in here on the show. What a great cast of people. Bobo, Lori, Cow Chipto, all in the YouTube comments. Hopefully more kind of flood in here as the show continues. But I want to continue with my notes from today's training camp because I've already talked about this player each of the last 2 days, and I'm going to continue to do that because he deserves every bit of praise I'll give him. Jason Pinnock continues to just be a tremendous find for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, again, no pads on, no preseason. You can't really touch guys, so, it's a grain of salt we're taking it with. But Jason Pinnock, through 3 days in a very small portion of minicamp, looks like one of the best signings on the roster and one of the best additions thus far through training camp. He looks incredible, whether it's interceptions, diving interceptions, being good in run fits, and even today having a quote-unquote would-be sack against the quarterbacks. He's so versatile. I would love to see, even if Malik Mustafa comes back, them use 3 safety fits, and I really wouldn't be shocked if, we'll have to get a better idea as to where Pinnock is in coverage once pads come on and during preseason, but as of now, early on, I really would not be shocked to see Pinnock and Mustafa being your starting safeties when the year, or when both those guys are healthy at the same time. That said, use 3 safety sets. Pinnock can be a weapon for this defense, and I have in my notes here, Pinnock is a defensive weapon, so good stuff there for him. Underrated signing. I really do want to see him in coverage. Like Kawachipto says here, Pinnock's game should improve once pads come on too. He's a great blitzer and tackler. Questions the only coverage. That is right now my only coverage as well, or question as well for Pinnock is, how does the coverage look once the pads come on? I really think that Pinnock can be a tremendous find for them and one of the better additions to the roster in 2025. Bobo asks here in the YouTube comments, are the Niners paying attention to any disgruntled players around the league that might be released or traded because of contract disputes? I'm assuming you are alluding to players like Christian Wilkins and company. My assumption is, like San Francisco always does, is they'll look into that, but I don't think because of the injury history Wilkins has and how touchy that is. Apparently Wilkins needs another foot surgery, at least that's what the Raiders want him to get. He has kind of denied wanting that and has outright said, no, I don't want to get that, so I'm not sure exactly where his health is, but I'm sure San Francisco, as most teams do, will do the due diligence and look at guys. But in Tyreek Hill's case, as you asked next, I would put your hopes of adding a receiver.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Sports are all about teamwork, and so is insurance. Whether you need an in-person or digital assist, State Farm is there to help you choose the right coverage for your home, car, and more. Get a game plan that helps fit your life and talk to State Farm today. State Farm with the assist. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability and eligibility vary by state.
Let's say of a Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, and Tyreek Hill's status, albeit clearly Hill has much more to give than the other two guys I listed. I would table that. I really don't think San Francisco at receiver wants to put more money into it, outside of re-signing Jawan Jennings, mind you. I just don't think they are viewing the receiver position as we got to add in that room. If some guy falls in their lap, then maybe, but I just don't think San Francisco is in position to either want to or need to add a wide receiver at this point in time. Now, maybe a Gabe Davis for that minimum contract could make some sense, but outside of that, I don't think that'll happen. I think San Francisco, yes, you want to have the most talent on your roster, but the Niners, if you listen to what Shanahan told Kawakami, are kind of in a 3-year window, and I think although it's hard for Kyle to get past himself sometimes and give young receivers reps early or in their first year, outside of Ayuk, Pearsall, and Samuel for obvious reasons being first and second round picks, I really want to see Cowing and Jordan Watkins play this year. Now, is that going to happen? Cowing has a much higher chance to play than Watkins does, but Jordan Watkins very much has a similar skill set to Gabe Davis. And I think Watkins, who's obviously cheaper, who I think you want to get and maximize the upside as early as you can for him. He's a 4-year deal as a rookie. If there's a 3-year window, you want to get the most out of Watkins and see what he can do as early as possible. Obviously, there's some blocking issues and stuff, and whatnot. Once pads come on, it'll certainly give us more indication as to where he is as a blocker. But I don't think San Francisco is eyeing Trey Hendrickson or Tyreek Hill or Christian Wilkins. I think they're pretty set right now with the roster they currently have. Unless somebody else goes down, then that can change things. But I would not assume they are looking to add, whether it is veteran players in the free agent market or disgruntled players that could become available in the near future. Back to my notes from training camp today. I want to talk about Jordan James, rookie running back out of Oregon, 5th-round pick this year, because he has caught the eye of many, including myself, and he was someone I talked about, during the drafting process, post-draft, leading into what his first year could look like for the team and how he fits with his skill set being an inside zone runner. I will say this. Now, granted, Jordan Mason was an undrafted free agent. Jordan James is further ahead now than Mason was his rookie season, and I think we are going to see Jordan James get serious reps during the year. Now, I don't know when that'll happen, but he's impressed early. I think his skill set translates kind of like Pannox to improving once pads come on. Now, you may get into a conversation of vision and patience in a wide zone scheme, but you're hoping Kyle, who his offense is kind of shifting more so to inside zone with James, that is a pretty good match for the young running back. He's looked really good as a pass catcher and as a running back, and I will plant my flag halfway in the camp of I would not be shocked if Jordan James, for as great as Grendo has been, and for as high of a ceiling as he may have as a speed, wide zone, one-cut guy, Jordan James very much has a chance to win the running back 2 job this year out of camp, and I would not be shocked if it happened. I think he's really good. And I think that you put him in the red zone and you're going to find yourself scoring a lot of touchdowns during the year. Again, I said it plenty of times already, 15 touchdowns last year inside the 20 at Oregon. So Jordan James knows how to finish off drives. And I think San Francisco, who struggled so much with that last year, needs a player like James to play for them and step up for them as a rookie. So I have high hopes for him in year number 1, and he's looked pretty good so far through the first 3 days of camp. Some other rookies that I won't say did a lot today, but were notably working as punt returners were rookies, Junior Burgeon and Jordan Watkins. I'm not sure if that would have been Cowing's role today had he been healthy, but I would assume it would have been. Junior Burgeon, who was by far the best return man at the collegiate level last season. He is, I think, like that's his path to becoming an NFL player this year, is being a return specialist for the team. Now, I don't know how many receivers they want to carry, probably 6, maybe 7 if you're lucky. So that could be Burgeon. But Jordan Watkins also, if it is to be believed that Shanahan told him, and he told the media that he's probably not going to play much in year number 1, that if he can get on the field and be a punt returner or kick returner, that's a good sign for him. So any way you can find reps is good. And if someone else goes down like Cowing, or if Cowing has to play more as a wide receiver, if Watkins or Burgeon can find a role on special teams, which Burgeon certainly should be able to, they were getting a lot of the reps today at punt return. So I think you'll see those guys, along with probably Garendo and Cowing and others, get a lot of shares there during preseason and training camp as things progress this year. I read a funny quote today from Nick Wagner of ESPN, and I'll just quote it directly. There is some naughty words in there, if you will, but ESPN's Nick Wagner had in his training camp notes today that he overheard somebody, not sure exactly who it was, but he overheard a player at practice today say, "One more day of this shit," meaning one more day of non-padded practice and you can start laying dudes out and having some fun and all that and the other. But you can tell this team, as most teams are like, can we please put the pads on? If you're there at training camp or you've seen the videos on social media, Monday will be a very good and happy day for the roster and the team. Most players eagerly look forward to the first day of pads to get back to real football for the first time and finally hit somebody, finally get physical. So you could tell this team, whoever it was saying that, for all I know, it could have been a water boy, but an unknown player, as the rest of the team probably is very eager to get pads on Monday. We also got to hear from new special teams coordinator Brant Boyer for the first time this year. And let's just say there's going to be a new mindset and mentality on the 49ers special teams this year. We're done away with the smooth talking, lighthearted, dare I say, kind of pansy style of play. It just seems like that's gone. Brant Boyer is by far an old school style of football coach, smash mouth, yell in your face, get in your grill and tell you like it is kind of vibe. And I love that. For how bad this team's special teams has been in previous years and how bad they were in pivotal games a couple of years ago, mainly in 2023. I don't know if that was because of the coordinator, because of the players, but the Niners did pour money into the unit, and it didn't get any better. So having a new guy in there, being Brant Boyer, just being a hard-nosed, smash-mouth goatee, you can tell he probably smokes cigarettes in his free time and drinks, 40s on the way to practice or after practice, and maybe has a cig or two afterwards. Like, oh my God, this is what I needed today. He is I love it. I love it. I've been in there with Brian Schneider and heard him talk, and it's all, oh yeah, Jake Moody's great. Oh yeah, do this. And Brant Boyer's like, these guys sucked. They weren't good enough. I'm angry. I'm mad. And it's like, finally somebody, as Jake Moody put it, has put a fire inside that special teams room, because enough is enough. They've cost us too many big games. So it's really good to see a coach, a coordinator that cares, that wants to get verbal and loud and obnoxious, in all the right ways, mind you. But you can tell, like, I've been in there with Steve Wilkes, DeMeco Ryans, now Robert Saleh. I've been in there with, Brian Schneider and those guys. Like, you can just tell who commands a room. And Robert Saleh commands a room better than all those guys does. Now he's back in the building. Brant Boyer commands the room 10 times more than Brian Schneider does. Like, you see Brant Boyer, you say, that guy means business. Brian Schneider, yeah, fun guy. You're probably going to see him at church on Sunday, this, that, and the other. Yeah, how's it going, Brian? He'll have a nice coffee in his hand. You'll say, oh, it's good to meet you. Brant Boyer going to carry brass knuckles and a cylinder block in the back of his truck saying, bring it, brother. That's what you want to see, right, from your special teams group that's been so bad the past couple of years. So the Niners now finally, since, 2019 or 20, have 3 coordinators that mean business and are really good at their job and command that room. Kyle being one of the best play callers in football, Saleh being a former head coach and one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the league. Now you have Brant Boyer in there that also means business. And for the first time in, 5 years or 4 years or so, Boyer essentially told the media that the kickers today weren't good enough. They weren't good. He was unhappy were the words he utilized or used, about the kickers, and you really haven't heard that. Shanahan doesn't care about special teams much. It ain't Saleh's job. It wasn't Sorensen's job. And Brant comes in his first day and was like, yeah, that wasn't great. It wasn't great. And that's what you want to see. Finally, someone putting a stop to the, it's okay. And Brant, putting his foot down, being like, these guys weren't good today. They weren't good enough. That has to change. And so I'm not sure exactly how long Saleh and Boyer are going to be there, but if it's 1 year, I am very happy with the mentality shift and change early thus far. That kind of leads us into my actual practice takeaways because I want to start things where I usually end shows, and that is the kicking competition. Jake Moody, maybe you can say, and no pun intended, has a leg up on Greg Joseph after today because Jake Moody was 3 for 4 on the day, missed his first training camp field goal. He missed a 50-yarder wide right. After practice, though, we did get some insight into him. And, Jake is one of those players you can tell the mental side of football weighs on him so much, where he was just mentally broken last year and to a certain extent also physically broken because he had an ankle injury. But Jake is such a nice guy. He's so kind and gentle, and this comes across as the boy next door. And all that's great and all, but if you can't do things and you aren't mentally perseverant, you're not going to last in the NFL. And it was really nice to hear Jake kind of assess himself today and really tell the media, like, I need to prove to myself I belong here. I have to prove to myself that, I deserve to be in the NFL playing for the San Francisco 49ers. And you really haven't got that much insight into him and how he is, mentally and whatnot. But Brant Boyer today talked about, Jake, was hurt last year, and that certainly affected his kicks and whatnot. But he just needs kind of a mental reset. And I think getting Boyer in the room, keeping him accountable, no longer is there Tabor Pepper and Mitch Wisnowski kind of saying, look, those guys are gone. We believe in your skill set, but we're going to cut you too if you don't get things right. Do you have the mental fortitude to last with us or in the league entirely? And it's good to hear Jake talk about, I have to prove to myself to be here, and this is a make or break preseason / training camp for him. And if he fails and falters, like, he may not get another chance. He's been that bad. Now, we've seen plenty of kickers be terrible than great, and kicking's always so polarizing, but it was good it was kind of refreshing to hear Jake be that honest about himself, at least early on, because, Jake, again, he's so nice and kind, but it was good to hear him just be honest and upfront about his struggles and whatnot. Lori Matthews asks here, are there examples of kickers who are bad early and become accurate? I'll give you one, because it's pretty recent that it happened, and really 2 of them, both them being ex-Niner kickers, mind you. The first one being Chase McLaughlin, who was brought in to replace Robbie Gould in 2019 for a few games when Gould was hurt, and McLaughlin was shanking kicks into the tunnel and was really inconsistent, and he was a practice squad player, then he got cut, and just A couple years later, found his way into Washington and the Buccaneers, and is now one of the more, I don't want to say consistent kickers, but is a actual NFL starting caliber kicker. So that's one. Joey Sly being the other. He was all power, no accuracy, and he's turned himself into a pretty good kicker as well. So there are two examples.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Calachipto says here, literally all the Carlsons. I wouldn't say Anders is in that group who was with San Francisco last year, but Dylan for sure. I think Dylan with the Raiders, although I think he may have got cut last year. Maybe I'm wrong, but he earned himself a pretty nice chunk of change in his contract. But I think Joey Sly and McLaughlin being the two Niner guys that have become accurate kickers after leaving San Francisco. That said, before I get into the quarterback play and the tight end play and Nick Bosa and Bryce Huff, I want to pause for 1 second to kindly ask you to like, share, and subscribe, and go right up here to SeatGeek.com. Find your tickets for Niner games, for if you're a Raider fan, I don't know why you are, but if you're a Raider fan, Raider tickets. If you want to see San Francisco at home or on the road, preseason, regular season, doesn't matter. A summer has about 1.5, 2 weeks left. You want to maximize your time and go to a concert or a baseball game, go to SeatGeek.com, find your tickets, and use promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Moving along on the show, and let's talk about the quarterback position, because when there's no Brock Purdy at practice today, it becomes the McCorkle-Jones show. Was it good? Was it pretty? Was it as fun as Superman or Fantastic Four? I can't get into that just yet. Haven't seen the movie, but Mac Jones yesterday was tremendous. He was sharp, precise, great, looked really good in the offense. Today was a little more shaky. He was 12 for 19, if that matters to you on your stat sheets. Funny enough, I used to work with Ray Ratto, a longtime Bay Area columnist and journalist, and Ray Ratto would take box scores of every single sporting event of that day in his notebook by hand. He would walk into our station at 95.7 The Game with notebooks just piled up, like, Ray's really short. He's like waddling down the hallway with all these notebooks full of box scores that he has to fill in that day before the show starts, or even during the show. Like, I love Ray. He is the most pessimistic, negative person ever, but he's a sweetheart, and I do miss the notebook, the pile of notebooks he used to have to do the box scores for that day. And if he was doing it, he would have Mac Jones at 12 and 19 on the day, and he looked a lot more shaky than yesterday. There really wasn't any highlight throws from him, which there were a couple yesterday, mainly to Isaiah Neyor, but Mac Jones threw an interception today, which was a pretty bad interception. The pocket was kind of collapsing. He had to step up into it, and he was just late targeting Jordan Watkins on a crosser on the left side of the field. It was an in-breaking route. It was just Jair Brown was right there. It was just a bad play. It was a bad throw. Again, you can maybe forgive it because it's training camp and whatnot, and it's interceptions and all that stuff. The same goes for Brock when he throws picks. Like, what are they focusing on, this, that, and the other? But this was one of the more egregious picks of training camp thus far. I didn't think it was as forgivable as previous ones by Purdy, or even Tanner Mordecai in that case. But a really good day yesterday, less good today from Mac Jones. But in the first kind of, welcome back to school, welcome back to football training camp sessions, Mac Jones has been pretty good, with today being his worst day by far. But Jair Brown got the pick, jumped in front of it, and returned it for a nice chunk of change. Not sure exactly how you'd kind of put that in perspective with no pads on, guys can't tackle, but I think they posted it on social media today, so you can see it for yourself. But not a great throw for Mac Jones, but a pretty nice return from Jair Brown. Tanner Mordecai, he got a lot of reps today because you got to think, no Brock Purdy, which San Francisco usually carries for quarterback, so in that case, you'd assume quarterback 3 or 4 gets more reps. Well, Mac Jones goes from quarterback 2 to 1. Tanner Mordecai goes from quarterback 3 to 2, and they don't have a quarterback 4 currently because Curtis Rourke can't practice due to a knee injury. So it was a Mac Jones, Tanner Mordecai heavy day, and Tanner Mordecai, this was like the first true extended look at him. We got some during preseason last year, but this year at least, this was the first kind of long look at Mordecai and his progressions as a sophomore player. He was 9 for 13 on the day. Again, it's not important, but box score watching, there you go. He had a really nice throw today, probably the best throw of the training camp session on Friday, on today's practice. He hit Jordan Watkins, a rookie who has also been pretty impressive through his first 3 practices. I would say he's been a sleeper standout thus far through training camp and the OTA sessions. He was about 30, 40 yards, maybe a little further downfield. He found Jordan Watkins. He was under pressure, stepped up, hit the receiver in stride. It was a really good play. So Mordecai gets the highlight throw of the day, if you will. But then, unfortunately for him, wow, great play. Afterwards, oh no, pick 6. So it was like, that's the roller coaster of having a quarterback 3 be your quarterback 2 on a day like this. But also good experience for him. But he threw a pick 6 right into the hands of Jalen Graham, who is back with San Francisco. Got cut last year, then got claimed again or signed again during the year. And then now he's back with San Francisco for a 3rd season. Got a pick 6. The linebacking room has been pretty impressive too. Young, flying around, albeit there are some mistakes here and there, and pads will certainly change how I feel about them, but they've got a lot of picks. They've rarely let guys break over their heads and whatnot. So Jalen Graham had a pick today. D. Winters had a couple. I think Luke Giffords looked pretty good. And of course, Bethune had a couple of nice run stops today, although again, you can't touch anybody. That said, I have been thoroughly impressed with Jordan Watkins, which is why I think the way he's played so far, makes me not want to go sign Gabe Davis. Just let Watkins play. If he's bad, he's bad. Okay, whatever. He's your receiver 6 or 7 this year for a reason. Maybe 5 if you're lucky, but he does do things other guys can't. And that's why I think the better he plays, the more Shanahan and company shouldn't go sign somebody else or trade for a receiver, because he has looked pretty good thus far. Lori Matthews says, so we don't have a quarterback controversy then. I'll say this, Lori. We used to, well, I won't say we, but many people out there used to be glued to quarterback stats. The kicking stats are the new quarterback stats this year. That's what you should be watching. Is Jake Moody 3 for 4? What did Greg Joseph do? Is he perfect? All that stuff. The kicking stats are the new quarterback stats, and by no means do we have a quarterback competition this year. If we do, we are in a nightmare, the worst timeline scenario with Mac Jones and Tanner Mordecai pushing Brock Purdy for his job post $53 million a year extension. But you're being tongue-in-cheek and funny. But no, there is, of all the competitions they have, quarterback is not one of them, which is a really good feeling, because there have been so many quarterback controversies the last few years of Jimmy and Trey and Purdy, just Purdy and Darnold. It's been a long couple of years for the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, but we finally have our guy locked and loaded. But kicking stats are the new quarterback stats. I will stick to that as training camp progresses. 2 more takeaways from the day, one of those being Braden Willis. Again, if you're just joining the show or you haven't listened to the previous 2 podcasts, I'll say it again here. I don't really like to assess the offensive linemen. You can, and there are certainly things you can take away, how a guy moves, what's their instincts like, all that stuff. But I would rather not watch them now and watch them once pads come on, give them a complete fair assessment first. That said, Braden Willis, who would sometimes play in line tight end as a blocker and whatnot, and had a really rough first couple years. He is the remaining tight end in that 2022, 23 draft class, whatever it was, that have Latu and Moody and Jair Brown and company. He's the last tight end of the group, so he's had a really rough couple years. He had the big holding call in the Super Bowl. He was getting screamed at in training camp a couple years ago, and to his credit, he's hung around and he's done well enough to stick around and be healthy and whatnot. But he had a really nice, solid, complete performance today. He had 4 catches. Not sure exactly how many yards, but they were all for a nice chunk of change. Also, had a really impressive toe tap catch on one of the sidelines. And again, he's not really known as a receiving threat, so it was nice to see where the competition for tight end, you have Cato and Luke Farrell, but behind those guys, it's kind of wide open. They had Mason Pline, who I'm not super high on, but, he's a basketball player, big guy. Maybe there's some traits you like as an athlete, but maybe not myself. They like Jake Tungis a lot. He was brought back this year. Then, of course, you brought back Ross Dwelly. So there's a lot of guys that can win that job, vying for that job. And it's good to see still a young player like Willis, who has been on the roster the last couple of years, finally kind of show some prowess and some fortitude in the offense for once, where really he's a blocking tight end who isn't bad but could be better, that I think could be worth keeping around on special teams. But I also think there is something in him to be a better receiver. Now, maybe that is a receiver as tight end 3, but maybe year 3 is the year for Braden Willis. I think, and I've always thought, he was a better player coming out of college than, say, Cam Latu, which now isn't saying much, but I do think Braden Willis can take somewhat of a jump in year 3. To what bounds that may be, I don't know, but it was really nice to see him today. 4 catches, looked pretty good, moved pretty well, and no one's job is safe behind Kittle and Farrell, so tight end 3's up for grabs. I'm assuming San Francisco will probably keep 3 tight ends and then a 4th one on the practice squad, if not 5. So good to see him taking a step forward, kind of heading into the penultimate non-padded practice before the pads come on Monday.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Getting back to the YouTube comments, Kawachipto says, kicking stats are the least transferable. You're not wrong, but so are the quarterback ones almost. They're almost as meaningless to me. So, yes, and especially with Jake Moody, his stats in training camp are just, they mean absolutely nothing. But he also says, Willis is terrible at blocking. He's not great, but I do think, I don't think he's disgustingly bad. He's playable, albeit you'd want more out of him. But I do think year 3, bigger bodied strength, there's reasons to believe he can outplay Ross Dwelly and Mason Pline. And if he's your tight end 3, you're not too angry. It's yeah, it makes sense, whatever. Now, if he's your tight end 2, we're having a whole different conversation, but it was a good sign to see him today. Tommy Huxley says, Fairies, I'm late. Sorry I was at rehearsal. What's up, you dumb fairy? No. Great to have you in here, Tommy. And all the other fairies in the YouTube comments. You guys are great, and I appreciate you joining the show here on a Friday afternoon. And let's get into, and Tommy, you missed the entire show. We have reached the end point because we finally get to talk about Nick Bosa and Bryce Huff. Nick Bosa, as he always does, looks great, muscles popping, veins just exuding off of him like it's nothing else. Dude looks like those old Gatorade commercials where like they're like all in pitch black and the Gatorade's like blue, but it's super bright and saturated. That's what Nick Bosa's life looks like, where like they have like over sharpened his image and he's just jacked out of his mind. That's Nick Bosa. There's muscles on muscles on muscles, and you're like, oh my God, I'm blinded by the creatine and protein running through your veins right now. My goodness. Whether it's Orgain or some max strength BS, I have no idea what it is, but my God, give me some of that stuff. Get me in shape, please, Nick Bosa. But him and Bryce Huff were awesome today. I know they've been, I really think that, that is going to be the tandem on third downs for this team. We all know Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago, top 5 edge rusher in football, whatnot. But to have the other guy across from him means so much to the defense. Obviously, you have Micah Williams and company, but it was after 2 quiet practices from Bryce Huff and no team drills for Bosa on day 1. Today was kind of the culmination of them finally playing together in some degree, and both those guys were all over the offensive line today. Nick Bosa was just bullying Colton McKivitz a couple of times. Bryce Huff beat Spencer Burford. Huff I didn't see working with the first team just yet again, so I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's just, again, kind of getting him right after having a really bad time in Philadelphia last year. But he looked quick. He looked fast. He looked like the player you want to have opposite Bosa on third downs. And he was making dudes have to rethink their pass protection sets and how they attack him. So it's nice to see, for the first time maybe since 2019, if Michael and Huff can be really good players, they're going to have that power-speed combo with both those guys in the mix across from Bosa. But for a non-padded practice to get hyped up over the edge rushers, pretty good day for the bookends of Bosa and Bryce Huff. That said, that was day 3. That was the final day of the week of practice for the San Francisco 49ers. They practice again on Sunday. We'll be back doing a live show then as well, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button to know when we go live on YouTube. Also, Pads on Monday, live for that as well. Don't want to miss it. We'll be right here again for that show as well. So don't forget either one of those shows back on Sunday. May have a video out for you tomorrow, but the wifey has a party planned, so we shall see how things go with that. But thank you all for joining me. Lori Matthews, Kawachipto, Tommy, hit the rewind button, brother, and restart the entire show if you can. Bobo also in here. You guys are all great. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. If you're listening on the audio podcasting platforms, it's Saturday. Enjoy your weekend and leave us that 5-star audio podcast review. And don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. Use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And as always, folks, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, until Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and every single day there's a training camp, stay faithful.